Hello everyone. The spring 2025 Sephora sale has started, and so I thought that I would do a video talking about the products from Sephora that I think might be the most appropriate for people who, like me, have sensitive skin. And I have spent a lot of time looking at the ingredient list for pretty much all of the makeup and the skincare products that are sold at Sephora, and so I do feel like I have a pretty good sense of which of those products might be more promising for people like me who do need to avoid certain ingredients. And especially what I tend to find at Sephora is that a lot of products do include either synthetic fragrances, or they may include aluminum powder, or they may include chemical sunscreens or chemical sunscreen boosters, which are basically just chemical sunscreens. And so those are all ingredients that I know that I tend to be irritated by very strongly, and I know that many other people are irritated by those as well. So I do avoid talking about those ingredients on this channel, and then there are some other ingredients that I also avoid, but there are an awfully lot of products at Sephora that I do think have potential for people with sensitive skin. And so what I want to do in this video is to talk about especially all of the brands that I think do have potential. And so what I'm going to be doing is to present you with a list of the products from each of these brands that I've tried and what I have thought of each of these products. And then in addition, I will be focusing especially on the products that I really like and that I use every day, and then also in terms of the new products. And a lot of these new products I've already tried, and then some of the new products I am thinking about trying, and so I would like your input into which of these might be the most interesting for you in terms of which ones I might want to pick up. And so first, a little bit of information about me. I am 60 years old, and I do have dry and very sensitive skin, and I've never had any kind of cosmetic procedures like injections or surgery, and I'm not really planning to do that. And so I do hope that the skincare and the makeup products that I use may have the potential of helping me to look a little bit fresher and a little bit younger as I moved into my 60s. And so in terms of the brand lists, I have given each of these products a grade in terms of being the ones that I've tried. So A+ products are products that I have used frequently myself just for my own use, and that I have enjoyed using and that I would continue to use and probably would repurchase if I ran out. And then products that are rated as A are ones that I also think that I might be able to use, but that I don't feel like I like as much as some of the other products. And then products that I've given a B are ones that I don't necessarily think that no one should use. I think in most cases there probably is a good audience for that particular product, but that they haven't worked out for me for one reason or another. And typically those tend to be products that do things like exacerbate the look of the wrinkles on my face, or in some cases that are too drying for my skin, things like that. And then once in a while, I will come across a product that I will give a C to, and that's really just a product that I think has some kind of a problematic issue with it that makes it something that everyone should probably know about, and that everyone might have problems with it, even if they are able to use it. And then also, even though these are all products that don't have the most problematic ingredients in them, in some cases I still do have negative reactions to the products. And so when that is the case, I just note that on the rating sheet. And so first, let's talk about products that have sunscreens in them, because I do think that the Sephora sale can be a good time for people to pick up sunscreens that they might be using in the summer. And so on this page, I did list products that have both the tinted moisturizers and also untinted sunscreens. And so there are a lot of products in the Sephora store that do contain either chemical sunscreens or that contain sunscreen boosters. And so sunscreen boosters are chemicals such as butylloctyl salicylate, ethyl ferulate, or tridecyl salicylate. And these are actually very, very similar to chemical sunscreens in terms of how they act on the skin and in terms of their chemical structures, but they have not been approved by regulatory bodies as sunscreens, and so they are not listed as sunscreens on the labels of products, even though, especially for those of us who do tend to react to chemical sunscreens, there is potential for people to react to these products as well. And if you are concerned about chemical sunscreens in terms of either health impacts or environmental impacts, then there really is no reason to think that these are going to be better for you than any of the chemical sunscreens that have been approved. And so I did take a pretty good look at all of the current sunscreens that are listed at Sephora that do not have either chemical sunscreens or sunscreen boosters in them. And so I do have a pretty good list. This list is longer than the list that I made last year, and so I was happy about that. And there are a few of these products that I've tried so far, and so I have already done some videos on those, and so you can go back and look at the playlist of sunscreen videos if you want to see what I thought of those. But I think that the St. Jane one, I do like that one a lot, especially as a sunscreen to wear under conventional foundation. I think it's worked really, really well for that. And then there are a few other tinted moisturizers that I think have been okay for me, including the one from Bare Minerals and the one from Say. And last year I did try a product that is called Lion Pose Ghost Buster, and that is a sunscreen that I think also worked pretty well for me, and that did not have a white cast, even though it does not have any nanoparticles in it, and so some people may like that particular product. It does smell like cucumbers though, so if you find that to be objectionable, then you might not like that particular sunscreen. And of course, there are a lot of other sunscreens listed here. And in terms of these other sunscreens, I actually do have at least samples of a lot of them. And so hopefully, as we move into summer, I can try out these gradually and then give you back reports on what I think of them. And just a couple of weeks ago in a video, I mentioned that I was thinking about picking up a product that is called the Acre 2% Stem Cell H2 Grow Complex Scalp Serum for Thinning Hair, which is $55 per bottle. And the reason for that is because I feel like after I broke my arm really badly last summer, it took me a while for it to heal up again. And I feel like after that, I started to lose a good bit of my hair, and then I could actually see a lot of scalp through it. So my theory here is that perhaps my body was using all of its collagen production to work on growing my bone back, and that it didn't have too much left to grow hair. But nonetheless, I was kind of concerned about that. Certainly it's more of a priority to have strong bones, but hair is also a good thing too. And so I have been thinking about trying this, but I think that my hair has actually been growing back in a little bit. So when I compare videos compared to even a month or so ago, and now I do feel like it's coming back in. So I'm really happy about that. So I'm not quite sure if I need this hair growth serum or not, but I'm still open to the idea of purchasing this one or another one. And so if you have any experiences with hair growth products, then please let me know about that. And then Alpyn Beauty is one of my favorite skincare companies, and they do have some products that have essential oils or other kinds of natural processed fragrances, and I am not sure that I do all that well with those, and so I've kind of gotten to the point where with skincare I have moved to just using unscented products, and Alpyn Beauty does have quite a few different unscented products, and I have done really well with them. And so I just did receive from them in PR a brand new product, and this one is called Super Sculpt Serum for Face and Neck Peptides and Choke Cherry. And so I've been using this for several days, and I will say that so far it's been okay for me in terms of not irritating my skin. And so I am definitely willing to continue using this, especially since I've done well with other Alpyn Beauty products in the past. And then the other products from Alpyn Beauty that I have really, really liked, and I have purchased all of these, and then on occasion, since I've started saying so many nice things about them, Alpyn Beauty has given me a couple of refills on them as well. But the first one is the Super Peptide and Ghost Berry Moisturizer, and that is a pretty thick sort of a barrier cream, and I found that to be a particularly nice product in the winter, and I think that my skin does like that an awfully lot. And for a few years, I have been using the Wild Nettle and Niacinamide Firming Serum as sort of like a moisturizing, hydrating type of a serum. And I think that that has been very nice too. And I purchased several bottles of that with my own money. And then there is a eye cream that I think is probably my favorite eye cream on the market. So this is the Line Filling Eye Cream. And this one has bakuchiol in it, and it has caffeine in it. And so bakuchiol is supposed to be an anti-aging product that is a little bit like retinol. And then caffeine helps to remove puffiness from like the under eye area. And I do think that this has been a particularly nice product for me in terms of actually helping my eye area to look better without causing any irritation. And then they have a newer product that's an eye cream that I use more during the day, and this is called the Instant Bright Eye Cream, and it's actually a little bit pink, and so it's a little bit color correcting on my skin, and it's a little lighter, and I do like that one as well. And then Armani is typically known for their Luminous Silk Foundation, and unfortunately that one does include both parabens and fragrance in it, and I did try that one time and my face did go kind of bananas with regard to that. But in terms of the products that they have released over the past couple years, I think that they have been much better, and that really all of the newer products that I have tried have been okay for me. So in terms of the newest product that they have just released and that is available at Sephora, there is a new mascara, and this one is called the Vertigo Lift Longwear Lengthening Mascara for $32, and then there is a smaller size available for $16. The unfortunate thing right now is that there seem to be a lot of mascaras that are being released, and I am been focusing a little bit more on brown mascaras because I think that those are ones that I'm personally more interested in. But I would be willing to try this mascara, and so I am interested in hearing what other people have to say about it and whether or not you are in particular interested in that. My favorite product from Armani are their lipsticks, and so I have several of these, and I think that these are particularly nice in terms of the shape of their bullet, and they do come in some really interesting colors, and so if you can especially go to Sephora and actually try them on and see if you like the colors that they have available, then this might be a good product. And I think in terms of how this performs as a lipstick, it has been really terrific. And I did demonstrate several of the shades in my recent video on red lipsticks. And another newer product from Armani is their liquid highlighter. And I did finally get a chance to try this in the store, and I actually kind of liked it. So I do think it's a little bit pricey, but I don't think that it irritated my skin, and it did look nice on me. And so I am still pondering whether or not I should actually go ahead and pick that one up. And so one of my favorite skincare companies is Augustinus Bader, and all of their products are very expensive, and I was skeptical about this at the beginning. And so I did decide to do a experiment starting at 2 years ago, where I would use just the Augustinus Bader product on half of my face and then do everything else the same on both sides of my face. And about a year ago, I did a video where I showed you the results of that, and I kind of convinced myself that there actually was a difference in terms of the two sides of my face, and a lot of other people seem to agree. And so I have decided to continue springing for this particular line of products and continuing to use that. And so for the past year, I've been using this on both sides of my face. And I think that when I look back at the videos from 2 years ago, and then I look at how I'm looking now, I'm actually not unhappy with how I'm looking now. I think that it's actually, my skin is looking pretty good in comparison. And so I am pleased about that. And so Augustinus Bader is a stem cell researcher that is in Germany, and so he developed a proprietary peptide, and this is used in all of the Augustinus Bader products. And so for the first year, I just used the Rich Cream, but then over the past year, I've been experimenting with some different products from them, and I've actually been liking really everything that I've tried. I haven't had any bad experiences with them, and I think that all of them are ones that I am happy to keep using, but that it might be the case that some of these might be more cost-effective than others. So for instance, over the winter, I purchased this product, which is called the Ultimate Soothing Cream. And so this is a product that comes in a jar rather than a pump, and it is a bit thicker. And so I thought that it might be more appropriate for winter. And I did use up this whole jar, and I think that my face liked it fine. I certainly would be willing to use this again, especially if I just happen to have it on hand. I also picked up a new product from Augustinus Bader, which is called the Rich Eye Cream. And so again, this comes in a jar, and I haven't used that much of this yet, but I think that As we move into summer, I will try using just the regular rich cream on my whole face as sort of like a serum, and then use a little bit of this eye cream on my eye area and see if it makes a difference. Again, I think that it might be the case that if I just use the rich cream on my eye area, that might be enough, because I think that my eyes have been able to tolerate that perfectly fine. And then I also picked up this product, which is called the Cream Cleansing Gel. And I doubt that this has very much of that proprietary peptide in it. And if it does have very much of that proprietary peptide in it, I doubt that it helps too much, because the product is only left on my skin briefly and then rinsed off. But as a nice cleanser goes, I think that this is a really, really terrific cleanser. And it is a little bit on the pricey side for a cleanser, but it's certainly not as expensive as the other Augustinus Bader products. And so as a special cleansing gel, I think this is one of my favorites, although again, it is kind of pricey. And then brand new on the Sephora site from Augustinus Bader are their lip balms. So these have been on their regular site and in other places in the past, but they seem to be just have arrived at Sephora. And I do really, really like the lip balms. I think that in terms of products that I've put on my lips, that these have been really nourishing for my lips. And I do think that the proprietary peptide that is in that lip balm, that actually is very good for my lips, and that my lips do look a little bit plumper and a little bit healthier and a little bit less dry in general when I use that. Now that is a quite expensive product. It's $45, but I found that the tube that I got has lasted me quite a long period of time, and that even if I'm just using it a couple times a day, that it actually has been helpful for me. And Bare Minerals is a company where I've tried out an awfully lot of their products. I did try a lot of their products when I was first experimenting with makeup maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And I think that a lot of their products do perform fairly well for me. I don't know that I think of any of them really as being top tier at this point, but I do think that they are functional products that might be useful for some people in some circumstances. And their newest product I picked up over the winter, and this is the Bare Pro Matte Pressed Powder Foundation for $42. And so I picked this up in the color Fair 15 Neutral, and so you can see what this looks like. And I think that this could be a good product. What I did feel like over the winter is that it wasn't the best time for me to try out this product, because my skin was really dry and I was either not using any foundation or I was using things that were kind of on the creamy side. And so as we move into warmer weather, I'm going to be starting to try out more heavier foundations and drying foundations and foundations like this that are more in powder form. And so hopefully I should be able to report back on this soon. But I haven't found it to be irritating to my skin. I feel like it's been okay. And so I do think, and I think it looks nice on my skin. So I think that there is potential here. I just need to try it out a bit more. And also a couple of years ago, I did try out a few Benefit products, and I really had very bad experiences with the Benefit products that I tried out in terms of their ingredient lists. I did find that most of the products that they had at the time were irritating for me, but I do see that they have a new bronzer that is called the Hula Wave Cream Bronzer Balm for $36, and I think the ingredient list for this one looks like it might be better than some of the previous products that I think do have a lot of problematic ingredients in them for me. So I would be a little bit interested in trying this out in the store to see what it's like. And Biossance is a company that was originally funded by Bill Gates, and it used biotechnology in order to try to take sugarcane, and they had genetically engineered microbes to convert that sugarcane into squalane. And so at first I was a little bit nervous about this whole concept, but when I've tried the products from Biossance, I've actually done pretty well with them. And I think that in general, most of the squalane that you get on the market now, it's actually is made from genetically engineered microbes. And so that is something that I'm feeling is not necessarily causing my skin irritation at any rate. And so there are some products from Biossance that I have especially liked. So for instance, they have a couple of facial moisturizers that I have liked, including the Omega Repair Moisturizer and the Probiotic Balancing Gel Moisturizer. I think both of those have been nice products for me. And there's another product that I especially like, which is called the Squalane and Lactic Acid Resurfacing Serum. And this one just has lactic acid in it. And I think that as products that have alpha hydroxy acids in them, that this one is actually pretty good for my skin and not irritating. And so sometimes I do use this, especially, for instance, on the area on my chin and along my jawline where I get some bumps and things like that. And so I think that if you do want a really, really gentle alpha hydroxy acid, that could be a good product. And I also have been using recently their caffeine toning body cream, and I've actually kind of really liked that one a lot also. And in terms of new products, again, they do have this sunscreen, and so I am interested in trying that one out as well. And then Bobbi Brown is a company that I do think that they make quality products, but they tend to put either fragrance or aluminum powder or chemical sunscreens in the vast majority of their products, and that makes them unusable to me. But they do make a few products that do not have those ingredients in them, and pretty much across the board, I do really, really like those particular products. So a new product from them that I picked up is the Precise Brow Pencil, and I have this in the color Gray Blonde, and I think that this has been a very nice eyebrow pencil for me. I usually use this in combination with a tinted brow gel, but I think that as brow pencils go, that this one has been a really good one, and it is available in a wide variety of different shades. And then another product that was released right in time for the Sephora sale is called the Pot Rouge Velvet Matte Cream Blush, and this is $36. And unlike their other Pot Rouge product, this does not have any fragrance in it, and I think that the ingredient list looks really good, and so I am interested in that. And then in terms of the other products from Bobbi Brown that I really like, they have a cream concealer stick and a cream corrector stick, and I tend to use these very, very frequently. And I did put on the cream corrector stick today, and so I can highly recommend both of those products to people, especially those who have dry skin and mature skin like mine. And then also at Sephora, of course, I really do like their longwear eyeshadow sticks, and they do list in aluminum powder and the may contain list, but I did get Bobbi Brown to tell me that some of them did not have aluminum powder in them, and so I have personally had good luck with the shades that I know don't have aluminum powder in them. And I also do still really like their gel eyeliner pencils. I think these are really terrific, and I think those are still available at Sephora. And in terms of hair gadgets, I did spend quite a lot of time trying to figure out what kind of a flat iron I should purchase a number of months ago. And the one that I ended up purchasing is this one from BondiBoost. And this one, I really like the idea of it because it's ceramic, so it isn't supposed to get really hot. And it also has a temperature gauge where you can choose your own temperature. And so I think that in a lot of cases that these hair gadgets tend to be set at more like 400 degrees. And in this case, I've set it at 300 degrees, and I've found that that has been a really good temperature for me to be able to get my hair to just go into place fairly nicely, but not be as damaged as it might be if it were hotter. And so I've been really happy about that. And if you don't want to do 300 degrees, you can get an even lower temperature. And in terms of the quality of it, I think it has been quite nice. And the other reviews that I've seen of it from users have been pretty good also. And so I would recommend this one to people with fragile hair especially. And then the other gadget that I use on my hair that I did a lot of research before I purchased is this one, which is a hairdryer that is called Zuvi Halo. And so this is also supposed to be designed for delicate hair and not to create any hair damage. And so it is drying largely with light rather than heat, and so it doesn't get real hot, it's not real noisy, but I do think it dries my hair really fast, and I don't think that it is damaging my hair nearly as much as other hair dryers that I have used, and so I have been happy with that. And I have been using this diffuser on it, and I do think that that has been nice. And this company, I think, is really only selling it on their website, and they seem to always be having some kind of a sale. And so I think that this is around $300, which is certainly expensive for a hairdryer, and I never imagined that I would spend that much money for a hairdryer. But in the end, I think that not damaging my hair as a result of using a hairdryer has definitely been worth it for me. And one product from Caliray that I do like is their color corrector. This is a liquid product, but I do think it performs pretty well in terms of not exacerbating the texture in my under eye area. And they have come out with a few new colors in this, and so this could be worth taking a look at, especially if in the past you didn't find the right color for you in this line. And then the other products from them that I have really liked include the Caliray Hell High Water Mascara, which has been out for a couple of years. And this was really one of the first mascaras that I really found that I liked a lot. And I still do like it a lot, but I wish they would come out with the brown shade. And then I also really like their eye pencils. I think that these have performed really well for me and that they haven't been irritating at all. And then Charlotte Tilbury has some new products that have been interesting to me. So the first ones are these eyeshadow palettes, and these have 9 different shades of eyeshadows in them, and they are supposed to be priced at $60, I think, but on sale, then I think that's a much better deal. And I think that these have been really terrific in terms of the quality of the shadows and in terms of the variety and in terms of the color stories. The one that I purchased and used is the one that is called Emerald Effect. And so this one has some greens in it, but it also has a number of different kind of more neutral shades in it that I think are also really pretty. So I don't feel like I can necessarily only get a green look from this palette. This does have a clear plastic lid on it, and people seem to keep complaining that this is not fancy enough for an expensive eyeshadow palette, but I actually really like it. I really like especially actually the lid, because I can see what's in here without having to check the label on it, and I think that the shadows themselves have performed really, really well. And it's actually quite nice plastic. It doesn't really feel that cheap when I pick it up. And so this is what the colors in the Emerald Effect palette look like. And then I just got this one, which is the blue one, and I haven't actually tried this one out, so I'm going to have to try it on camera pretty soon. But this one has really just blues in it, so I think this might be a little bit too much blue for me, so probably I will use it sort of in combination with more of like a taupe type of an eye pencil, something like that. But I do think that the colors of blue in here look like they should be really wearable for me, so I am looking forward to giving this one a try. And then I think there are 4 other shade combinations that I think could be really, really attractive too. And so I am kind of looking to see if I should think about picking up still another one of these. I feel like I'm kind of going overboard in terms of buying too many different shade combinations, but compared to other eyeshadow palettes that I have, I really, really like these. And I also especially like the fact that they're a little bit smaller and that I can just store it in my makeup case, and that it doesn't seem to be really something that needs to be cluttering up at the place and getting in the way. So all in all, I think these have been really terrific. And I haven't found this green palette to be irritating at all, so I'm hoping that will be the case with the blue palette as well. And then Charlotte Tilbury also has a new mascara, which is called Exagger Eyes. And I did manage to get a little sample of that one, so I am going to be giving that one a try. And then another product that I'm a little bit interested in are the Pillow Talk Beauty Soulmates. And I think that these are powder, blush, and highlighter combinations. And I would kind of like to try that out in the store before I actually made a decision on that. I think that Charlotte Tilbury products tend to be hit or miss for me. But in this case, in any case, it does seem to have ingredients that look okay for me. And then another new product from Charlotte Tilbury are their Hollywood Contour Wands. Actually, these have been out for a while, but they did introduce a whole bunch of new shades in that. And so in the past, I don't think that there would have been any shade that would have been appropriate for me. Now there is one shade that is lighter. I still don't feel like I am that interested in using contour in general, but if you are a contour person, at least they do have a wide variety of shades in that now. And I think that a lot of people do like that product. And in terms of other products from Charlotte Tilbury that I really like, I do really like their foundation stick, but I do think that it's important to realize that that is not really a foundation stick that you should use either to cover blemishes or that you should use it all over your face. And that what it really is a highlighting stick that comes in a lot of different shades. And I think that if I think of it in that way, it is really my favorite highlighter that I have probably ever tried, but that it is kind of on the expensive side for a highlighter stick. So maybe that's why they're not saying that that's what that is. And I also do like their Beauty Light Wands, and I like their Beauty Blush Wands in terms of there being a very nice, easy to apply liquid highlighter, although it does come with that little sponge tip on the end of it, and so the sponge tip does seem to get dirty after a while, and so you don't probably want to use those indefinitely. And then in terms of products from them that I really like, last year they did release a product that is called the Magic Water Cream, and this is unscented, and it didn't have any ingredients in it that I found to be problematic, and it is supposed to have a fair number of peptides and things in it, and I did use a small jar of that, and I did really like it, and I certainly would use it if I still had it. It does cost $100 for a big jar, and so that's a little bit on the expensive side for me, unless I'm convinced that something is really doing something for me, but I did find that to be a good product, and I wouldn't mind trying it again. And then Clinique makes a few products that I do kind of like, including, for instance, their Black Honey. I still do kind of like that lip balm. But in terms of products that I really use and that I would really highly recommend, the only one that I would bring up here would be the Take the Day Off cleansing balm, and especially since Farmacy has made some changes in their own cleansing balms, I think that this is one that is worth considering. So I will talk about that Farmacy issue in a couple of minutes. But in terms of the Clinique cleansing balm, I realized recently that this is a kind of a standard cleansing balm, and I saw an interview with Sarah Jessica Parker, who is on Broadway a lot, and the interviewer asked her what kind of product she used, and she just said, oh, well, just take the day off from Clinique. Like that was what everybody uses, and I realized that there was a good reason for that. And that does remove really any kind of makeup that I'm using very, very easily, and I don't need to do a second cleanse with it, and it's been really effective for me. And I wouldn't really use any of the other Clinique skincare products, but that one I have liked a lot. And then Dior, most of their products do contain fragrance, and so that makes them no-go products for me, unfortunately. But in terms of the products that they have that I do really like, of things that are at Sephora, I like their Backstage Glow face palette. The first one, which I think is called Universal, and then the one that is called Glitz, I think. I think both of those are very nice highlighter type palettes, and that those have performed well for me. Now, Dr. Barbara Sturm is a line of products that is just as expensive as Augustinus Bader, and at first I was really suspicious of that, but I managed to collect a bunch of sort of sample size products from them, and so I have been giving them a try for a while, and I do think that there is something to be said for these products. And I think that especially if you have skin that is especially reactive, and that if it's red or if it tends to be really easily irritated, that the Dr. Barbara Sturm products seem to be particularly useful for that. And I think that part of it is because they don't have any irritating ingredients in them. But I do think that some of the ingredients that they have in here may actually be helping my skin to become less reactive. So for instance, all of their products include purslane, and I think that since I have been using just a very small amount of the Barbara Sturm products on a regular basis, I do feel like I've gotten to the point where I don't have little bits of redness on my face, and so when I go to use a concealer, I really don't feel like I have that much to conceal on my face in terms of the small amounts of redness that I used to have, and that's actually a really big thing for me, because I haven't been changing anything else. I just added those Barbara Sturm products to the things that I was usually using. And then Drunk Elephant is a line of products that I've been pretty hit and miss with. So there are some products from them that I have really, really liked, and then there are quite a few products that I have found to be irritating for my skin and that I haven't been able to use at all. And then there are a few products that I just really haven't liked very much, even though they haven't been irritating. So the newest product that they have that I have really, really liked is a hand cream. And so this is called Theraboo Buttered Reparative Hand Cream for $24. And actually at the beginning of this winter, I purchased something like 6 or 8 different hand creams that I thought I would try out. And I think that this was the best of all of the hand creams that I've tried. The other new product that they have just released is called the Mellow Marula Cream Cleanser, and I was a little bit optimistic about that, but when I looked at the ingredients, it does have some ingredients in it that are like mild surfactants, and that I did find to be problematic in their original cleansing cream, which is called the Best No. 9 Jelly Cleanser. So this is a cream version, but I think the ingredients are basically the same as in that No. 9 cleaner, and I did not find that one to be okay for my skin. It definitely irritated my skin, and I think that this Mellow Marula one, that one would probably irritate my skin as well. So unless I can get a sample of that, I'm not going to go ahead and buy that one. And the products from Drunk Elephant that I can recommend in terms of my own experiences with them, I do really like their Lippy Balm, and that is $19, and I think that that has been quite good for my lips too. And I've used up a couple of those so far. And I also really like the Bora Barrier Rich Repair Cream that was released last year. That is $70, and I think that that has been a really good product for me. And I think it was especially good during the winter, but I would wear that one during the summer as well as a night cream. And I think it's been a really good for my skin and not irritating at all. And in terms of AHA serums, the one that they make also has glycolic acid in it as well as lactic acid. And this is called the TLC Framboos Glycolic Night Serum. And so if I'm looking for something that's a little bit stronger than the Biossance one, I think that this is a very nice product. And again, it hasn't been irritating to my skin at all, even though it is a strong product. And then they also make a hyaluronic acid serum, which is called B-Hydra Intensive Hydration Serum, and I think that that is a fine hyaluronic acid serum. And in addition, there is another product that I really like, which is called the Virgin Marula Luxury Face Oil, and I do think marula oil is a really, really good product, and I think that as face oils go, that's very nice. Now, I don't think that you need to buy marula oil from Drunk Elephant. I typically buy it from Eadem Botanicals, where they sell it as a carrier oil, and it is something like 1/5 of the price of what Drunk Elephant charges for it, and I have found the quality to be equally good, and so that would be what I would suggest for that product. But I do think that marula oil is a really good skincare product. I am still a really, really big fan of the Eadem Le Chouchou lip balms, and I've demonstrated those a few times on this channel, and I do think that all of the colors that they are offering are really nice and that they taste really good to me and smell really good to me, and that they are really, really good for my lips. So I think that that is a real success that Sephora is still selling. And then Farmacy is a company that is owned by Procter & Gamble. And they are best known, I think, for a product of theirs that is called Green Clean. And I feel like Green Clean has been really successful for them because, like the Clinique Take the Day Off product, this is a product that you can use on your skin and that is very good at removing makeup. And that in the past that you have been able to just rinse off, and that I don't think a second cleanse was required. And I think that the reason that this rinses off the skin so clearly is because it includes certain PEGs in it. And so I found that the version that is called Green Clean was too problematic for me because it included a number of essential oils and other processed natural fragrances in it, but that I was able to use one that is called Honey Vanilla Clean, and that is still being sold on the Farmacy website, and that one still does have that same ingredient list in it. So what Farmacy has done now is that they have reformulated the Green Clean Cleansing Balm, and they have taken those PEGs out, and they are now suggesting that you should be also purchasing one of their regular cleansers and using this as a two-step cleansing process. Which makes sense, because if it doesn't have those PEGs in it, then you are not going to be able to rinse it off cleanly enough to probably be happy with that. So I think that that is a little bit unfortunate, and that makes me fear that they are going to be changing the ingredients of their Honey Vanilla Clean as well, and that probably all of their products won't have any PEGs in them. And I didn't find the PEGs to be problematic at all in terms of irritating my skin, and I don't really have any theoretical concerns about those. So I'm not sure why they decided to take those out of their products. And now with regard to Green Clean, they have unscented versions and scented versions. But again, both of those have the same formula, and so they both are supposed to be used with an additional cleanser. And I actually did try their new cleanser that they released that is supposed to be the second step in this cleansing routine. And this is called the Green Clean Gentle Creamy Cleanser. It is not supposed to have any fragrance in it, but that one did irritate my skin, and so I'm not able to use that. So in general, even though in the past I have purchased a whole lot of products from Farmacy, and I will continue to use the products that I already have, and I might even buy some more of this Honey Vanilla Clean to keep on hand because it is the old formula, I think that in the future this might not be a good formula for me, and that I might need to move on and find some other things. And then, as I say, their other new product is the Green Defense Sunscreen. And because some of their other products, like the cleanser, were irritating for my skin, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to tolerate that sunscreen or not. So I'm kind of thinking maybe I should go to Sephora and try to get a sample of it before springing for a whole bottle of that stuff. And then I've tried quite a few other products from Farmacy, and some of them have been okay, and some of them have not been okay. And Fenty is a company that seems to put fragrance into a lot of their products, and so I haven't tried a number of products from them. I have liked both of their bronzers, both their cream bronzer and their powder bronzer, and so I would recommend those. And Glossier, they have a new product that is called the Future Dew Solid Illuminator, and so this seems to be kind of based on a product that I actually didn't like at all, which is called the Future Dew Facial Oil, and this new version is in a solid form, and so I would be a little bit interested in giving that a try. So maybe if I go to Sephora, I will see if I can get a hold of that and see what it looks like on my skin. In terms of other Glossier products that are sold at Sephora that I really like the lip line pencils, and I have, I think, 3 different shades of these, and this shade is called Black Cherry, and last I checked it wasn't available on either the Sephora site or the Glossier site, but I did happen to pick this up in my local Sephora store, and I did really like the way it looked on my lips, and I demonstrated this in my lipstick video. And so if you do happen to see it in your local Sephora, or if they do get it back in stock, I could especially recommend this color. I think this is a really terrific sort of cherry cola type of a color. And then another product from Glossier that I really like are their Ultra Lip lipsticks. I use these all the time. And they came out with a couple of new colors as well. One of those is kind of a 90s brown color, and one of those is a straightforward red type of a color. And I think both of those are really terrific colors too. And I don't know if those are currently available on the Sephora website, but if you happen to see those colors, those are very pretty. Or really any of the Glossier Ultra Lips products I think are really nice. I wear those really frequently. And GOOP makes a lot of skincare, and I haven't been really enthusiastic about those products. They all have seemed to be a little bit irritating for me, but one product from them that I do really like is their Color Blur Lip and Cheek Balm, and these are $34, and they are kind of a nice, soft, really easy to blend shade of a balmy type of a product that looks really pretty, and that does come in a lot of really soft colors. So I've really enjoyed using those a lot. And the newest product from Haus Labs is called the Bio Radiant Highlighter Stick. and I am really interested in that product. Usually I have pretty good luck with really everything from Haus Labs, and so I am a fan of that brand. I would kind of like to try out that highlighter stick in the store to see which color might be the best for me before actually springing for it. And then the product from Haus Labs that I would most recommend, I really do still like their foundation very, very much. And I feel like if I want to wear a foundation that has silicone in it and that is going to look nice on my mature skin, that the Haus Labs foundation still tends to be the one that I reach for the most. And then Haus Labs makes two different kinds of blush. One is a blush stick, and then the other one is powder blush. And I think that in terms of the formulas, that these are both really, really terrific, and I really enjoy using them. And they both tend to be very pigmented in terms of the shades, and so I do feel like I have to use it in a fairly restrained way in order to make it not too bright for me. And so I do wish that they had some shades that were a bit more muted in those same formulas. But I will say with these formulas that they perform well enough that even though some of the shades that I have are really way too bright for me, I still feel like I can use them in a gentle enough way that they do look nice anyway if I am careful. And in terms of lip products, they make a line of lip liners that are called Le Monster. These are actually lip crayons, and so you can draw on a nice lip, and they come in a bunch of different colors. And I do really like these a lot, and I find them to be really easy to use, and that they do feel really good on my lips. And then last year they came out with a line of lip glazes, and these are ones that I didn't use that much over the winter. I didn't feel like they were moisturizing enough. But now that we are moving back into spring and my lips are in a little bit better shape, I have been trying those out again, and I do think that they look really good on my lips. And those actually do have some peptides in them, and their claim is that those are lip products that make your lips look gradually plumper over time. And so I am really happy that they do not have any kind of irritating ingredients in them, and that my lips seem to do okay with them. And I do think that my lips look nice when I'm wearing them, and that I don't mind wearing them, especially during the summer months. And then Hourglass has a couple of new products. So one is a new priming moisturizer, which is called the Illusion. And so I looked at the ingredient list for that, and I am a little bit interested in that. It doesn't look like it has anything in it that's really problematic. So I'd like to try that out in the store. And then in terms of their Vanish Airbrush pressed powder, this one is now available in a mini. So the full size was quite expensive, but the mini is $29, and so conceivably I might pick that up. And then another older product from Hourglass that I purchased fairly recently is this trio of ambient lighting powders. So I think that one of these is supposed to be a bronzer, one of these is supposed to be a highlighter, and then there's one of those is supposed to be a finishing powder. And so these are kind of like the powders that are in their holiday palettes, but they don't have the color versions of them. And I feel like all three of these powders have been actually nice for me. And I think that especially adding like a little finishing touch for the camera, I think that these have been very, very pretty. And then the other product from Hourglass that I have liked for ever since it was released is the Veil Hydrating Skin Tint. And it is kind of on the expensive side, but I think that in terms of skin tints that perform really well, like a foundation, and that stay in place and that do look good, especially on my more mature skin, I think that this has been a very good product. And Huda Beauty, they came out last year with a product that is called the Easy Blur Foundation, and I did have some success with that. I did like that product a lot. And then in terms of new products, they released the Easy Bake Setting Spray, and when I looked at the ingredient list for that, it looks like it probably should be okay, and it's not including any of the ingredients that I usually find to be problematic in setting sprays, including alcohol or fragrance. And then Ilia is a company that seemed to be kind of stalled in terms of their progress for a number of years, and that just last year seems to have really gotten their act together and released a whole bunch of products that I actually do really like. And so the newest of these is the Ilia Barrier Build Skin Protectant Cream. And so I did pick this up, and this has felt really good on my skin. It hasn't been irritating at all. It doesn't include any fragrances or anything like that in it. And so I could highly recommend that. And then the other skincare products from Ilia that I have really liked and that I have used quite frequently include their base face milk, which I very often use as a primer and which I think has been really terrific for me in terms of giving just a little bit of moisturizing to my skin and also serving as a nice base. And I also like their new Bright Start eye cream. And then in terms of makeup, Ilia introduced a new line of eyeshadow sticks that are called the Eye Stylus. And some of these are matte and some of these are shimmer. And I picked up a couple of them so far, including this one, which is a little sample that I happened to manage to get. And then I have a full-size one. And I'm thinking maybe I will pick up some more during the sales. But I think that it may be the case that of all the eyeshadow sticks that are on the market right now, these actually may be the best ones in terms of performance and in terms of not causing irritation and the ingredient list. But in general, this is a really, really good product, I think. And then Isamaya, I did a full video on Isamaya recently. And I do really like their lip products. So I really like their lip balms, the regular ones, and I think that the lip balms that have the shimmer in them that are called metallic, I think that those are really fun. And so I would like to be able to wear those more often, and I've been using them mostly as a little bit of a topper on top of other lipsticks that I have, and I think that their lip pencils are also pretty good. And then in terms of items that I haven't picked up yet that I am interested in purchasing from them, I'm thinking about the mascara. That is supposed to be a mascara that helps your lashes to grow, and I am a little bit concerned about that. I might react to it, but I think that it might be worth a try, and especially since they do have a brown shade available. And then in addition, I think I might be especially interested in their microbial gel primer, so I might pick that one up as well. And in general, I am a fan of the Kaja eye bentos, and those do not have any aluminum powder in them as far as I've ever seen. And I think that they have performed really well in terms of going on my eyes really easily. And they are $28, so for 3 little eyeshadows that perform really well, I think that that is a reasonable price, especially if you can get them on sale. Now, I did see that there are maybe a couple of new shades, including one that has blues in it, that were available on the Nordstrom site. And I'm not seeing that available on the Sephora site yet, unfortunately, but that should be available in other places if you're interested in blue shades. And then a new product from Kosas that I've tried out a couple of times in the store is their Cloud Set Loose Powder. And so this is not available in conventional powder shades. It's only available in shades that are supposed to be brightening. And I feel like the only shade that was appropriate for me is the pink one that is called Candy. And I like pink powder, and I think that this is kind of on the expensive side, but you do get a lot of the powder in here, and I do think that it seems like a nice powder formula. Now, Kosas does also have a new setting spray that is called the Cloud Set Setting Spray, and that one does not have any fragrance noted on the ingredient list, and it doesn't have any alcohol listed, but it does have phenethyl alcohol in it, and this is a preservative that smells like roses and that is used in fragrances as a rose note. And it may be derived from roses, but I think it's much more likely to be derived, created chemically in a laboratory. And I do find that phenethyl alcohol tends to be irritating to my skin, and especially in most of the Kosas products. And so probably I will skip that one. And that one also has seaweed in it, and seaweed can sometimes also be irritating to me. And then in terms of other products from Kosas that I am still really enthusiastic about, I do really like their regular pressed powder. I think that that is really terrific. That's called the Cloud Set Baked Setting Powder and is either $18 for a small container or $36 for a large one. And then I also really like both of their brow products. I like their regular brow pencil. I don't like the micro one so much because I feel like that one has a tendency to break, but I do like the regular brow pencil. And I also like the tinted brow gel from them. And I think both of those have been mainstays for me for a long time, and I've used them a lot. And I really did like their new baked blush that came out last summer, and I have 4 shades of those, and the shades that I have are all in the more muted shades, and I really do feel like I can wear that very easily. So I am a big fan of those, and I continue to like their deodorant and the unscented version quite a lot. And I have tried a number of products from Kulfi, and I think that a lot of those have been pretty good for me. And their newest product is the Baby Lash Tubing Mascara, and I have heard a few good things about that as a tubing mascara, but it is only available in black. And right now I'm really thinking that I'm looking more at brown mascaras. And Laura Mercier has a new product that is called the Bronze Color Infusion. And so these are bronzers. Each of these have 2 different shades in them. They're powder, and there's several different versions of them. And so the one that I have is called 10, which is Saint Croix. And so this is what this looks like, and this is what I put on my cheeks today as my main color on my cheeks. And I think that this is really terrific. I really, really like it. I feel like I like it maybe almost as much, or maybe even a tiny bit more, than the RMS bronzer in the shade Beach Walk Betty. And I do think it's giving me that same sort of look. I don't feel like this one has as much of a sparkle to it as the Beach Walk Betty shade from RMS, but I really do think that this is a very nice bronzer that I feel really inclined to use really every day. And so I've been doing that most of the time recently. So I could definitely recommend this. And then another really muted product from Laura Mercier that I picked up really recently that I have liked is this one, which is not available at Sephora, but it is still available in this packaging on the Laura Mercier website, or you can get it in this color on the Sephora website. And so this is the color Ginger. And so this is in this packaging that was supposed to be Chinese New Year, I think. And I think that as this color goes for me, I think that this has worked really well too, that it has been sort of a in-between shade between being a really muted blush and almost like a bronzer. And again, I feel like I can wear this really, really easily on my skin, and that it just gives a little bit of color to my skin that looks really natural and really polished. And then of the other products that are at Sephora that are from Laura Mercier, I really like their Real Flawless Luminous Pressed Powder. This is more like a finishing powder, and so I do use this quite a bit to put just a really soft sheen on my skin, and I don't feel like it's glittery. I feel like it's a lot like this Hourglass powder, and so I do think that for my aging skin that this can give it a little bit of a luminosity that is very subtle and that I think is really, really pretty. And in terms of their eyeshadow sticks, they had to reformulate these, I think, to take the cyclic silicones out, because those are considered to be an environmental issue in Europe. And I think that they did that really successfully in terms of the matte shadows. In terms of the shimmer ones, I think that this was less successful, and that in a lot of cases they added aluminum powder to them to try to boost them up and make them a little bit prettier. But of course I can't use aluminum powder, and at least they are stating which ones do have the aluminum powder in them, and so I have to watch really carefully to make sure that I don't get the wrong ones. But even the ones that haven't had aluminum powder in them, I don't feel like they performed as well as the ones that they used to have, so that's all been a bit of a disappointment for me. And then in terms of eyeliners, I do still really like the Laura Mercier eyeliners, and I think that of all the eyeliners that are on the market, these are among my favorites, and they perform fairly similarly, I think, to the Caliray ones. And then Lawless is a brand that I've tried quite a few products from, and I think that a lot of their products are pretty good. And I haven't really come across any that I've been super enthusiastic about, but I think that in general most of their products are nice. And their newest product is called the Forget the Filler Foundation. This is more of a full coverage foundation. And I did get a chance to try this out at Sephora, and I thought that as full coverage foundations go, that the formula seemed like it would be okay for me. The thing that's a little bit strange about this foundation is that I did try on a few different shades, and I found that the lightest shade in the whole range was the one that was the most appropriate for me. And that is really unprecedented in terms of all of the foundations that I've ever tried on. I think that it usually is the case that I'm, 2 or 3 shades from the bottom. And in this case, there's no shades that are lighter than my skin. And there certainly are a lot of people that have skin that is lighter than my skin. And so I think that those people may have a hard time finding a good shade for themselves in this line. And then in addition, Lawless has a product that is called the Perfecting Powder, and I think that that is kind of a nice pressed powder that I have used in the past, and that I do think it kind of has a velvety texture to it. And so they have some new shades in that. So there is one that's a pink shade, and one that's a yellow shade, and one that looks more like a marigoldy type shade. And so I would be a little bit interested in taking a look at those shades to see if any of them might be appropriate for me, or if that pink one, it looks like it might work out. And Lion Pose is a new skincare brand that came out last year. And so they have that one sunscreen that I did a review of, and they have a really strong AHA serum that is supposed to be for people that are trying to use it to address age spots. And then they also have a product that I have really, really liked that is called Pep Talk Barrier Repair Cream. And that is a very nice, unscented, moderately rich type of a cream that I think has been really, really nice for me. And so I would definitely buy that one again. And then recently I've been focused on a video on more affordable makeup that might be appropriate for people with sensitive skin. And so I've been looking at Versed, which is the sister company to Merit. And I've been looking at Tower 28, and I've also been looking at LYS Beauty. And so I've tried a number of different products, and I listed here the first impressions of what I'm thinking about them right now, although as I shoot more of the footage for camera and think about them a bit more, some of these ratings might change. And Makeup Forever is a company that is owned by LVMH, and they seem to be targeting mostly makeup artists, and they do put fragrance in most of their products, so that makes them no-goes for me. But I did try one of their little mini artist to go eyeshadow palettes a few months ago, and I really do like that little palette. And so they sell 2 of these palettes through the Sephora site, and I am really interested in the other palette as well. And then on their website, they have a couple more versions. And I did have a really good experience with this particular little palette, which had, I think, 6 shades of eyeshadow, and it's $32. So I think that's a pretty good deal. And I thought that the shades all worked really well in terms of how they blended, and I thought the color story was really nice. So I would be interested in trying out some more of those little eyeshadow palettes. And then also last Christmas, I got this little kit. I don't know if this is still available anywhere, but it has a bunch of different pencils from Makeup Forever. Some of these are eye pencils, and some of these are lip pencils. And one of the ones in here is white, which seems to be totally useless to me. But I did get a chance to try out some of the eye pencils and the lip pencils, and I thought that all of these were really, really nice. And so I have become kind of a fan of that particular formula, and I would be willing to try out some more shades in that, either the lip pencils or the eye pencils. And Makeup by Mario is a brand that makes a lot of products that I do feel enthusiastic about. And so I did do a full video on this particular line. And so if you're interested in any of these products, then you can go take a look at that video. That was just a few weeks ago. Their newest product is called Master Mascara, and it probably is a fine mascara. The ingredient list looks fine. But again, it's not in a brown shade, so that makes me a little bit less inclined to run out and get it. But the products from Makeup by Mario that I do really like and that I do use myself, I do still like this palette, which is called the Ethereal Eyes Moonlight palette. And the reason that I like this palette so much is because it has a number of shades in here that are topper shades, and I think that Compared to other toppers that are on the marketplace, I think these are actually really, really pretty. And you can get several of them in this palette. And then it does have some other kind of neutral shades in here that work well with the toppers, and so I do enjoy that. Unfortunately, the dark shades that are in here, the blue and the brown and the black, these tend to be very, very highly pigmented, and so I do find them a little bit difficult to use, even as an eyeliner, and so I have to be really, really careful if I'm going to use those. And usually I find it to be a little bit better if I just skip them because they do create a very smoky eye. But in general, I do like the more muted shades and the toppers in this particular palette so much that I actually have been leaving it out and using it relatively frequently. And then in terms of other products from Makeup by Mario that I think are really terrific, I do really like their Ultra Suede lip pencil. I think that these perform almost as well as, for instance, the Chanel lip pencils for me, and they certainly are a lot less expensive than the Chanel lip pencils. And then they also make a cream bronzer, which is called the Soft Sculpt Transforming Skin Enhancer. And then they also make a cream blush line, which is called the Soft Pop Blush Veil. And I think that both of those are really terrific in terms of the look that they give on my skin and in terms of lasting well on my skin and looking really soft and natural, but also very, very pretty. And they have a foundation that I think is really nice in terms of providing kind of a plumping look to my face. And so I do think that as women get older that they tend to lose a lot of fat volume from their face, and that the Makeup by Mario foundation is one of those that I think has been most successful in giving me back a little bit of that plumping look to my face. And so I have really liked that, and I haven't found it to be irritating at all. And they did come out with some new shades recently, and so that has made me really happy because I was finally able to get a shade that was appropriate for my skin tone. And then in addition, they came out with a couple of new products this past fall. One was a setting spray, and that one does not include any ingredients in it that I found to be problematic, and I feel like it performed really, really well for me, especially over products like the Makeup by Mario foundation, where there's a lot of oil in the foundation. And then they also have a setting powder, which I think has also been a very nice setting powder. And I actually picked that one up in the shade Peach, and I think that that is a really lovely shade on my skin. I really like it a lot. And Merit is one of my very favorite brands, and so I have given almost all of their products an A+ in terms of this list. But in terms of their new products, they came out with two new products. One is a new lip liner, which is called the Signature Lip Sheer Lip Liner. And then they came out with a line of 4 new lip oils, which are sheen lip oils, which are supposed to be just a little bit shimmery. And so in terms of the lip liner, the color that I have already purchased is called Brownstone. And so I will try swatching that on the back of my hand so you can see what that looks like. So this is definitely a brown color, but it has just a little bit of a reddish lean to it. And I think that it's been very nice. And that is what I've been wearing in this video. And then in addition, I have been wearing this shade of the new lip oil. And this is in the shade Tabby. And again, it's supposed to be kind of a dark brown. And I would not say that this lip liner lasts all that well, regardless of what I do or don't put on it. I don't think it's supposed to have the same function as a classic lip liner that you put it on and then it lasts all day. It's much more blurry, it's much more easygoing, and it's certainly a lot less pigmented. But I do think, and see if I just kind of move it around on my hand, see it pretty much like all disappears just with a tiny little bit of brushing. So I wouldn't expect this to last as well at all as a regular lip liner. Now I do think if you compare this to the Rhode lip liner, and I have one of these as well, I think that it lasts a little bit better than the Rhode lip liner on your lips. But I don't think that this is intended to be the kind of lip liner that is going to stay on your lips all day. It's much more easygoing than that. And I do think that these look pretty good on my lips, and I think that they look nice in the video footage, and they look nice in the real world, and I am happy to wear them. But in general, most of the Merit products are ones that I really like, and I can go through them really quickly just to remind you of which ones I like and which ones I would suggest might be worth getting. So I do really like their minimalist complexion sticks, and I'm especially happy that they came out with some additional shades last year. And so even if in the past you haven't been able to find a good shade for yourself, I would suggest going and taking another look. And then Merit has a bunch of different lip products, and I really do like really all of them, including all of the shades. And so the original ones are their satin lipsticks, and these tend to mostly come in shades that are almost like a lip gloss, but that look a little bit more refined than that. And so, for instance, this is the shade Baby, and a lot of the other shades are also kind of like neutral sort of shades like that. And then last year they came out with a line of matte lipsticks, and I think that these have been really terrific too. And they are feel kind of satiny to me in terms of how they feel on my lips. They are kind of creamy. They do feel like they are really good for my lips, so that has been really terrific. But they are pigmented, and they do give the look of a matte lipstick, even though they do feel so creamy. And then I have a number of different shades of their original lip oils, and these are pigmented, and so they actually have a brighter color than their original lipsticks, and I really do like those a lot. And then they have these lip glosses, which are more sheer. These are the Gelée ones, and I think that this is also very nice. And all of those lip products have held up for me pretty well, so I've been really happy about that. And then the other products that I continue to use on a regular basis and really like myself include the eyebrow gel. I think that that has been really nice, and they did reformulate it, and I do think it might work even better than it did in the past. And I like their Clean Lash Tubing Mascara, although I wish that they would bring it out in a brown shade. And I also have a lot of their different Flush Balm cream blushes, and I think that really all of the colors that I have been nice on me, and that this is a very nice blush. And then NARS is a brand that is pretty mainstream, and that they haven't called attention to themselves as being a clean beauty brand at all. But nonetheless, really everything that they have offered over the past 3 years that has been new to the market, pretty much all of those products have been really terrific as far as I have been concerned, in terms of their working well in my sensitive skin and in terms of having ingredient lists look good to me. And the only exception to that has been their Total Seduction Shimmer Eyeshadow Sticks that they just released. And unfortunately, these do include aluminum powder on the may contain list. And I tried to get information from NARS in terms of whether or not some of the shades had aluminum powder, and some of them did not, and I wasn't able to get that information. And so unfortunately, I can't really imagine that I'm going to do really well with them. I did pick up one of these shadows before I realized that it had aluminum powder on that list, and I haven't tried it yet, so I am going to give that a try and then get back to you in terms of my success or failure with this particular version. But in general, that's been my only disappointment with them. But other new products that they have released recently, I have really liked the Afterglow Tempting Eyeshadow Palette, and I did a video on that a few months ago, and that's supposed to be a spring palette, so you may still be interested in that, and that is at Sephora. And then they have a new collection of products that have really, really cute packaging that have like cabana stripe on them. And so this includes their Afterglow Lip Shine Gloss, and it also includes some cheek and face palettes. And then there are a variety of different palettes available for different skin tones. Now, I do think that most of the reason that I'm drawn to these products is because the packaging is so cute. And in addition, I do really like this lip gloss formula. So I do have this in a shade that is called Far Away. And I think this is a really pretty product on me, and so I would recommend these lip glosses regardless of the packaging. And then Natasha Denona is a brand that I really like their eyeshadow formulas, and I do think that they perform really well and that they are easy to apply and easy to blend, and that their color combinations seem to work really well. And they have released several different palettes recently that I have really liked the color stories for. Now, all of those do include at least one shade, or in some cases a couple of shades, that include aluminum powder in them. And so I just have been marking on the palette which ones those are. But it also is possible to remove those shades from the palette. And then in terms of products that have been released since the last Sephora sale, there is a new palette that is called the Bloom Eyeshadow Palette, and that one seems to have colors in it that lean more like on the peachy side and that are pretty deep colors, and I feel like those might be a little bit too bright for me. But I would be interested in taking a look at that in the Sephora store to see how it looks, because sometimes with these palettes, I feel like they probably won't work out for me, but then when I actually try them on, they're actually really nice. And then there also is a line of cream cheek duos that is called High Blush, and I have this one in the shade Simply Shy, and I think it's kind of pretty. I think it's a little bit on the expensive side, and I am thinking that maybe I will get some use out of it over the summer. This kind of looks like summertime shades to me. And then another product that Natasha Denona released a couple of months ago was a mini eye sculpt eyeshadow palette, and this one is all in neutral colors like black and brown and a taupe color, and one that's kind of like a cream color. And so I felt like several of those colors were not really appropriate for me, and so I haven't really picked that one up yet. But I do think that in general that the mini eyeshadow palettes tend to be really good, and none of the recent ones have had any aluminum powder in them. And so for this one instance, this one is the mini Starlit palette, and I have used this one quite a lot. And there are a few other palettes that are in this mini line that I also have really liked. And there is one that is called the Mini Rose Eyeshadow Palette, and I saw this one at Sephora, and I thought that the colors in it do look really pretty, more pretty than I thought they were going to be. And so I may pick that one up before the end of the Sephora sale. And Necessaire is a brand that I do like quite a lot, and I actually did a whole video on Necessaire, so if you're interested in particular products from them, then I would suggest taking a look at that video. And One Size is a company that it seems to be mostly designed for people that want full coverage, and maybe also people that have oilier skin. But I did try a product last fall that is called Turn Up the Base Full Beat Foundation, and I thought that as full coverage foundations go, that one was really terrific. And so if I were looking for a full coverage foundation, that would likely be the one that I would try. And now I see that they have a new product that is called B12 Base Thinner Serum. And this is a product that I actually did try out at Sephora at Kohl's. And I did kind of like it, actually. I thought that my skin thought that it was tolerable. It's a little bit shimmery, and I think that what you are supposed to do with this is to take your regular foundation and you can mix it with this particular foundation and make it into something that's a bit lighter and a little bit on the shimmery side. And I feel like that could have some potential to it. And I do like the way that this product felt on my skin, and I do feel like the ingredient list looks pretty good. So I'm kind of thinking that I might pick that one up. And then a brand of skincare that I have really, really liked and have used really, really often is the one from The Outset. And this is a line of skincare that is specifically designed for sensitive skin, and especially if your skin is feeling out of balance, then these products are designed to be ones that you can always come back to and that can help your skin to recover and start to do better again. And so products from them that I have liked and have used quite frequently include the Nourishing Squalene Daily Moisturizer, which is just kind of a light moisturizer that I have used really frequently, either on no makeup days or underneath makeup, or in some cases I will mix this with the heavier foundation to make it a little bit lighter, and I have really liked it for that purpose too. And then I also have really liked the Firming Vegan Collagen Prep Serum, which is like a hyaluronic acid type of a serum. And this has been a very nice product for me. And I will either put this directly on my skin or sometimes I will just mix it into moisturizer. And then in terms of skin oils, they have a product that is called the Ultralight Moisture Boosting Oil. And what I will say about this product is that I don't think it's very greasy. It's not nearly as greasy as a lot of the other oils that I do like on my skin. And I do think that my skin responds pretty well to this. And so if I'm looking for an oil to put on my skin, but not have my skin have a greasy finish that might not be appropriate, for instance, to put makeup over the top of it, I do think that this is a nice product. And then in terms of physical exfoliators, the only one that I really like at this point is the Outset Exfoliating Caffeine Micro Polish. And so this is a product that I do use on my face, and I also use it on my hands during the winter. And then the Outset also has a cleanser that is a micellar cleanser that is in a gel form. And that is a cleanser that I actually do use during the summer months when my skin is a little bit less dry. But actually, I think that in terms of being a cleanser that really anyone can use, even if your skin is really dry or even if it's not very dry at all, I do think that that is actually a very nice and gentle cleanser that does a fairly good job of taking off everyday makeup, and that also leaves my skin in pretty good shape. So I do like that product. And the most recent product that has been introduced to Sephora is the Lip Oasis. And this is a very glossy lip balm, and it also has some moisturizing ingredients in it. And so I would say that of really glossy balms that I have put on my lips, that this is probably the one that I have found that has been the best for my lips. And it comes with this little applicator, which I actually think is a really good applicator. And so I'll put a little bit of this on and you can see what it looks like. And so that is really glossy, but it feels really good and it does taste really good to me. And then also on the Outset website, they have their new sunscreen, and this is called Hydra Sheer. And I did do a review of this last year, and this is actually likely my favorite sunscreen of all at this point. And so I do recommend considering that. And that is for sale on the Credo website. I don't know why it's not for sale on the Sephora website, but I would imagine that Credo might be having a sale at some point soon. And so if that happens, then I think that that Hydra Sheer sunscreen would be a good one to pick up. And then let's talk a little bit about Pat McGrath in general. Pat McGrath herself is now going to be the beauty creative person for the Louis Vuitton makeup line that is going to be launching, and so she has been a little bit distracted by that, I would think. But in addition, I think that Pat McGrath has been really having to redo their entire line, and the reason for that seems to be because most of their eyeshadow palettes in the past had Teflon in them, and then also some of their other products that were really popular, including their lip pencils and their eye pencils, those also had Teflon in them. And it does seem that Teflon is a product that is being phased out. I think there are very few products on Sephora now that do have any Teflon in them. And so I think that they were forced to redo all of their original Mothership eyeshadow palettes to take out that Teflon. So I am not unhappy about that for personal reasons, because I do react really violently to any Teflon in products, and particularly in eyeshadow palettes. And so of all the Motherships that were released before this year, I did pick up 2 of them because in the past these never had any kind of aluminum powder in them, and they also never had any Teflon in them. And I feel like I've been able to use them reasonably successfully in terms of they're not irritating my eyes. I do put them down over a concealer, and so that might be protecting my eyes a little bit. But in general, I think that they have been okay and wearable for me. And so the ones that I have this one, which is Mothership 10, and this is kind of purpley type colors, and I do think it's very pretty in terms of some of these shades, and they do have some pretty topper shades in here that I have enjoyed. And then I also have the Mothership 11, which I got on a really, really good sale. And this one is called Sunlit Seduction. And this one has a lot of pink type colors in it, or rose type colors. So typically I haven't used these palettes very much, and there's a couple reasons for that. The first one is that the shades tend to be pretty saturated for me, and so if I'm not really cautious with them, then they tend to create an eye look that is much more dramatic than what I feel like I can use easily. And then the other thing is that these palettes tend to be quite heavy, and they take up a lot of space, and they're kind of bulky, and so what I typically will do is just to put them away and then not really think about getting them out. But Pat McGrath did release a new palette, and this is called Petal Morphosis, I think. This is Mothership 12, and this one has some greens in it, and it looks like it is a palette that would probably again be really, really saturated. And so even though I do like green colors, I'm a little bit skeptical about whether I should actually spring for that particular palette. It is quite expensive, certainly, and it does have an awfully lot of pigment in it, and I feel like I already have a lot of eyeshadow palettes, and maybe I don't necessarily need that one. But it's possible that if I can get it at a good enough price, like I got this Sunlit Seduction one like half price at one point, that I might pick that one up eventually also. And I'm sure it's probably a very good quality palette in terms of the quality of the shadows and everything. But because I was reminded of these Pat McGrath palettes over the past few weeks, I have been playing with these Pat McGrath palettes that I already have. And so, for instance, today I took just 2 shades from the Sunlit Seduction, and I put those on my eyelids. And I think that they look nice, and I'm not even usually liking pink eyeshadows that much, but I think that these tend to be really pretty palettes, but they are on the expensive side, certainly for what people are hoping to spend for makeup at this point, I think. Now, in terms of the other motherships, I actually did go through all of the ingredients for all of the motherships that were listed on Sephora maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And so all of the ones that were listed on Sephora at the time, except for 10 and 11, those all did have Teflon in them. And so I wasn't interested in getting those. But I do see on the Sephora website that they re-released 3 of these motherships, and that none of these new motherships have any Teflon in them. And so the ones that they released are Mothership 5, which is Bronze Seduction, Mothership 7, which is Divine Rose, and Mothership 9, which is Utopian Dream. And the Divine Rose version does have 1 shade in it that has aluminum powder in it. And so again, I don't do well with aluminum powder on my eyes either, so I am more hesitant about buying that one, even though I do like that color story. But the other 2 palettes, the Utopian Dream and the Bronze Seduction, those are palettes that do not have any aluminum powder in them, and they don't have the Teflon. But all of these Pat McGrath palettes do have some talc in some of the shades, and so if you're concerned about talc, then these would not be good products to buy. So in terms of these palettes, I would be interested in hearing from someone who has the old palette in their collection and whether or not they are finding that one of these new palettes is performing similarly or differently than the old palettes. My suspicion here is that what are called the special shades that people used to like, that those tended to be based on the Teflon, and that is why they performed in a really special way. And so if they've replaced those with some other formula, then I don't know if people will be liking the new version as much or not. Now, personally, I, of course, would like them better because at least I would be able to use them, but I don't know if they would be worth picking up or not at this late date. And there are a couple of eye quads that are listed on Sephora, and those are $62. And the ones that I have are Venus and Fleurs and also the Divine Bronze eye quad. And I think both of those have been fine for me. I actually feel like I've been able to use those more easily than I have been able to use these big mothership palettes. And I don't feel like I regret having spent money on those products. And then other products from Pat McGrath that are sold at Sephora that I do really, really like and that I have used very frequently. First of all, they released a new line of lip crayons that are called Dramatic. Maybe they're called lip pencils. And I have a couple of shades of these, and I have really liked them quite a bit. And I did demonstrate one of these in my lipstick video that I just did. And the other one that I have is called Coral Lust, and I think that the one that was kind of on the reddish mahogany shade, that is something like Flesh 3. And then in addition, Pat McGrath has some satin lipsticks, and I do really like this satin lipstick formula, and I have used these quite frequently. And I've heard some complaints about this, but I don't think that it's in terms of the formula. I think it's really just in terms of the cases. So I think these cases are actually kind of cute, and they are kind of small, and I don't mind that at all. But in the case of the cases, they do... they have kind of a lightweight plastic, and some people think that they look kind of cheap, and so that is something that if you're concerned about what the case looks like and whether it seems like it's a luxury case, then this might not be the one for you. But I feel like in terms of the quality of the lipstick formula that's in here, I think that that is a very, very nice lip formula, and I do have that in several different shades, and I think it's performed very well for me. And I think that for the price, even at 20% off, that this is a quite good price for a lipstick. And another product that I use from Pat McGrath is their under eye powder. And I actually don't just use this on my under eyes. I actually often just use it on my face really lightly if I'm wearing a foundation that is not too heavy or not too greasy. And I think that this is really a kind of a lovely product. And I have it in this color, which is the baby pink. And I don't think it looks that much different on the skin than their regular light color. But in any case, I think that the fineness of the grind of this powder, I think that it's very, very nice, and it looks really pretty on my skin. And then Patrick Ta, most of the products from Patrick Ta have fragrance in them, and so I haven't really picked up very many of those at all. The only products that I have from Patrick Ta are two that were released toward the end of last year, and I do really like both of these. So one of them is their foundation, and this is a foundation that I think seems to be especially designed for mature skin or dry skin, and also sensitive skin, and it's actually one of my favorite foundations at this point, and especially for winter. So it does have a lot of hydration in it. It does go on the skin feeling kind of glowy, and it's one of those skins that's sort of similar to the Makeup by Mario one, that when you put it on your skin, that it gives kind of a plumping look to the skin that I find to be really attractive for me at my age. And the only thing that I feel that I need to be sure to do with that one is to use a good setting spray on it. And if I do that, then I think that it performs really well. And so the setting sprays that I will use on that, again, are either the Makeup by Mario setting spray or the NARS setting spray. And then the other product from Patrick Ta that I picked up is this eyeshadow duo, and this is basically just two eyeshadow toppers. And I have this in the shade Still at the Club, which is a brown shade. And I really do like the way this looks on my eyes. I think that this is a really nice, really interesting looking, but very subtle and very pretty eyeshadow, and so I have used this quite a bit actually. And I did try the other shades at the store, and I didn't feel like I liked any of the other shades nearly as much. I thought that they were much different in terms of the sort of vibe that they were giving off, so I didn't really feel that inclined to buy another one of these, but I do like this brown one. Now, Rare Beauty is a brand that is associated with Selena Gomez, but I think that in general it's not really a brand that's particularly made for me, because in a lot of cases the products have fragrance in them, and in a lot of cases the products tend to be very, very highly pigmented. And I think that the one product from them that I feel really, really good about is their cream bronzer stick. And I do have the lightest shade in that, and I think that as cream bronzers go, that is one of my favorites. Now, in terms of their new products, they have a new product that I actually did order, and this is called the Soft Pinch Matte Bouncy Blush. And again, it looks like most of these shades are pretty bright, but I did get what I thought was the most muted looking shade. I think that one's Hope. And so I will give that a try, and then I will report back to you on that. And another product that is new from them is the Soft Pinch Liquid Contour, and that does come in a variety of different shades. And generally speaking, I am not a big fan of contour, and so I'm not really inclined to try out one unless I really get a big demand for it. But I have been hearing pretty good things about this particular formula. And then Say is another clean type brand at Sephora that I've tried almost everything that they offer. And a lot of the products are okay. And some of the products I have really, really liked. So one product that I do really like is the Say Concealer. And this, I think, is really almost as good, in my opinion, as the Sarah Creel Concealer that I also like. This one seems like it's a lot less expensive, but it does not include nearly as much product in the container as the Sarah Creel one. So in terms of cost per gram, I don't think that this one is all that better of a deal. But in terms of the performance of this, I have really, really liked it. And I think that it's done a nice job in terms of not emphasizing the texture on my under eye area and doing a good job of working as a general purpose concealer all over my face and serving as a good eyelid primer. And then right now, of all of the mascaras that I have tried, I feel like I'm most likely to rebuy the same mascara in the brown shade. I do think that that is an attractive brown shade, and I think that this is a pretty functional mascara for me, and it is a pretty good price. And the other product from Say that I use really frequently are their brushes. And so for instance, this is a little powder brush, and they have a couple of brushes that are very dense that I use to blend in foundation or blush or things like that. And I think that these are fairly good quality for the price, and for some reason I do tend to reach for them an awfully lot. And in terms of new products, they have a new line of blushes, and these are called the Super Suede Powder Blush. And I did get a chance to try those out at the last time that I went to Sephora, and I feel like most of these are pretty highly pigmented, and so they're not necessarily my ideal blushes. But I did like the formula of these, and I did like the way that they felt on my skin, and I felt like they were a nice, really finely milled formula that I think really kind of disappeared into my skin, even though they were so pigmented. And so I did go ahead and order one, and the shade that I did order, I think that one's called Mia. And then there is another shade that is called Chow, which is kind of a brownish color that I also did think about that looked like it might work for me as well. And then Sarah Creel is a brand that I have been kind of trying out gradually over time, and I've tried out most of the products that they offer by now because it is designed for women who are over 40 and that do have sensitive skin. And so I think that especially people that are interested in my channel might have some potential of at least wanting to know what these Sarah Creel products are like. And so a product from theirs that I've really used the most is their Face Flex Concealer product. And this one does have quite a bit of product in the container. And so even though it seems like it is really, really expensive, it definitely has lasted me for a long time. I've used this very frequently, and I feel like there is still an awful lot of product still in this bottle. And so it does have a little doe foot with it, and I think that the advantages of this are primarily because if you have wrinkles or other kinds of texture on your skin, I think that this does work really, really well with that texture. And so I have been using this sometimes as an under eye product, and then sometimes little bits on my face to cover up redness. And I very frequently have been using it as an eyelid primer, and I think it's been working very nicely for that. And the shade that I have is 3.0, and I do think that that's been a good shade for me. And then another product that I do think has been nice, but that it is very expensive on a cost per use basis, is the Sarah Creel Adults Are Talking Lip Balm. And so the first product that I got was the clear version, and I do think that that product felt very nice on my lips, but it also seemed to be being used up really quickly. But then they came out with a tinted version of that, and there are several different shades, and so I did try one of those shades, and I did really like it, actually, and I think that it did look really nice on my lips. And of lip balms that are tinted, I think that this one is particularly nice for my lips, and so that makes me a little bit more interested in wearing this, at least on a fairly frequent basis for going out during the day. And then I have this mascara, and the mascara is called the Back of the Cab Mascara. And what I will say about this mascara is that it does go on and doesn't make a real big mess, but I do feel like I have to very carefully wipe off all of the excess on the container, because otherwise it does tend to turn into a little bit too much mascara on my eyelashes. And this almost is like a paste consistency. And I don't mind the way that it looks on my eyes, and it doesn't irritate my eyes. But all that having to wipe the mascara off on the container, that does take a little bit of extra time. And sometimes I do like to use a lip primer, because I think that that can be helpful for me if I'm using a lipstick that is on the drying side. And so I did pick up this lip grip line filler from Caliray, and so I gave that a try. And I don't think it's bad, but I do think that I like the MAC Prep Plus Prime Lip Primer a lot better, and so therefore I don't see myself buying this one again, even though this one does not have a vanilla scent in it, and I would prefer it not be scented. And then in terms of their lipsticks, I did pick up one of their lipsticks, and I liked the way that this looked on my lips. I think that it didn't emphasize the texture on my lips. I think it stayed in place nicely, and that the color was nice in the brown shade that I purchased. And so there are some good things about that lipstick, but unfortunately they chose to put a fragrance ingredient in that lipstick, and that is called ethylene brassylate, and that is a musk note that is actually used in the fragrance industry, and that was originally created by DuPont in the 1940s, and when I first used that lipstick I only found it to be a little bit objectionable. But the more that I used the lipstick, and then the more that I used a few other products that had ethylene brassylate in them, including the Victoria Beckham concealer that they did in conjunction with Augustinus Bader, eventually I got to the point that, and it occurred pretty quickly, that I became really sensitized to that ingredient, and then it started to give me headaches. And so I have given up on using that particular lipstick, and I'm really not sure why they would put that ingredient in a lipstick. I think that that is a little bit on the weird side. And then in terms of the other products from them, their newest product is a sculpting cream bronzer, and I would be interested in that, but it looks to me like the shades are kind of on the gray side, and that they really are designed to be a contour. And again, I'm not a big fan of contour. And one product that I have been hearing a lot about from a number of different beauty influencers on YouTube is the Moisture Source Essence. And so I think that some of those people may have gotten that product for free, but in any case, they do seem to be really, really enthusiastic about it, both in terms of putting it on the face on its own, and also there seems to be a lot of people that are mixing that with the concealer from Caliray. Apparently she encouraged people to do that, and you can make a light foundation out of the concealer if you do that. And unfortunately that product is $95, and in general I'm not usually a big fan of products that are really watery or essences or things like that. But I'm starting to feel like I may be needing to buy that product anyway, just because I have been hearing good things about it from people. And then the last product from them that I might consider trying is their eye cream. So that looks like the ingredients probably would be fine for me, so I might consider that one. And they do make a sunscreen, but that sunscreen, even though it says that it is a mineral sunscreen, it actually does include butyloctyl salicylate in it, which is a sunscreen booster, which is essentially just a chemical sunscreen without approval. And so I'm not going to be buying that sunscreen. And then Tom Ford is another brand that is owned by Estee Lauder. And just as Bobbi Brown herself is no longer associated with the Bobbi Brown brand, to my understanding, Tom Ford himself is no longer associated with the Tom Ford brand. But Estee Lauder has continued on. And like Bobbi Brown, most of the products from Tom Ford are ones that I cannot use because they either include synthetic fragrance in them or aluminum powder or chemical sunscreens. But there are a couple products from Tom Ford that I do really like. So the first one is the concealer that is in a stick form. And so this is called the Traceless Soft Matte Concealer. And I think that this one is really terrific. And I have this in the shade Creme. And then another product from Tom Ford that I really liked that was released this past fall is their lip liner, and I have this in the shade A-List, and this is a sharpenable pencil, and I do need to sharpen it up. But I do really like this one. I think that as lip pencils go, this is very, very expensive, but I think that if you want a pencil that really stays in place and that is going to really last, I think that this is one that is very nice for that. And then Tower 28 is a brand that is more affordable, but that does make some products that I think are fairly high quality. The newest product from Tower 28 is the Get Set Matte Powder Blush, and I was sent this by Tower 28 in this shade called Long Beach Iced Tea, and I think that this is actually a really nice blush, and so I've been trying this a number of times, and I'll put a little bit of this on. And what I will say about this blush is that I do think that the powder formula is very sheer and really finely milled, and so I do think it goes on my skin really easily. I am a little bit perplexed by this particular blush because I feel like this is saying that it is supposed to be a setting powder, and I think that's a little bit peculiar because when I put on my makeup, I think that the place that I'm sort of the least likely to want to be setting is my cheeks. And so maybe what they are intending is that you are going to be using sort of a more heavy duty powder on your T-zone, and then you might need just, a little tiny bit of a light layer of some kind of a setting powder to put on your cheeks, and maybe they're thinking that that's what this blush is for. I'm not saying that the formula is inappropriate to be a setting powder. I actually am liking that formula quite a lot. I'm just a little perplexed by this concept of how the blush is a setting powder. And then the other product from Tower 28 that I have used is their SOS Rescue Spray type of a product. And that is basically just hypochlorous acid and salt. And the idea with this product, I think, is that it is bringing your face back into balance. And so especially when I've used a product that has some problematic ingredients in it, I think that the microbial balance on my face can really get thrown off. And so that if I use a product like this one on my face, that can help to take down some of those bad bacteria or other fungi, things like that on my face, and let it start over again. And so I think that has been a good thing. Now, you can get hypochlorous acid from other places. For instance, I've purchased it from a company called Briotech, and I think that's been fine. It might even be a little bit less expensive, but in general, I think the Tower 28 product is very nice, and I do think that it has a good function. So I think that's why it's been so popular for them. And then Violette FR is a new brand at Sephora, and so I did do a whole video on Violette FR, and I would say that of all the products that they offer, the one that I've been actually liking the most is surprisingly a skincare product, and this is called the Boom Boom Milk 3-in-1 Cream Spray, and I do think that my skin really likes this product, and so I've been using this, and I will continue to use up this small container, and I might even repurchase it at some point because I do think that this has been nice for my skin. And then another product from Violette FR that I have liked is their highlighter balm, and this is one of those highlighter balms that is basically just giving you kind of a glassy look to the skin, and I do think it is very pretty, and I do think it gives some hydration to my skin. And then Westman Atelier, this is a brand that I do like an awfully lot of their products, and actually in terms of products that are best in category, I think that this brand may have more of those than any other brand on the market for me. But on the other hand, there are some products from Westman Atelier that I just haven't liked at all, and there have been some that have been decidedly irritating for me. And so in terms of the products that I have really liked, first of all, I have really liked the Baby Cheeks blush sticks, and I actually have every color of these that they make, and I did do a video where I talked about all of the different shades, and I've continued to use these. And the thing that's been sort of the most surprising about these is that I've had some of these for maybe 4 years, and they have all been holding up just fine for me. They seem to be just as wearable as they were when I first got them. And then in addition, I really like their highlighting balms, and these come in a number of different shades. And so their newest shade is one that is called Petal, and so I did pick that one up. and that is one that I put on my cheeks today. And I feel like this is a little bit of a combination of a glassy highlighter that is sort of, again, leaning into that Jones Road type of a look without having any fragrance in it and without being too sticky. But this one also has some color in it, and so it serves for me kind of as a blush. And so I can put a little bit more of this on so you can see what it looks like. But in general, I don't feel like I even really need to put on more, because as blush goes, I think that this is holding up quite well on my cheeks. And then, as I said, I really do like the Westman Atelier I Want You mascara in the shade Brown. And so I think that that is a particularly nice mascara because it gives me a really natural lash look. So I realize that is not what many people want, but that is actually what I am looking for with the mascara, is something that goes on really easily, that I can only spend like, a few seconds per eye and be done with it and have it look like I'm not really wearing makeup, but to give my lashes some more definition, because they do tend to be very light. And I think that this fulfills all of those challenges, and I also think that it holds up really well when I'm outside and walking my dog, things like that. And so if I could afford it, I would probably spring for that $45 every couple months or so to get a new one of those mascaras, because I do think it's a really nice product. And then also, right as soon as it came out, I did purchase the Westman Atelier Sun Tone Bronzing Drops. I actually went to the store and tried this out, and I was really impressed with it, and so I've been wearing that since then. I did purchase the lightest shade, but I think that the second lightest shade also would have worked okay for me. And I think that as bronzing drops go, that these have been really, really nice. And I did buy a bunch of different liquid bronzers last year, and so far, I think that the only other product that I've really liked has been the Jones Road one. And so I think that what I should do is to compare this one to the Jones Road bronzer and see what the differences are, so that you can have a better sense of which one you think might be better for you. But I can highly recommend this product. The only thing that I will say about it is that it does have a 6-month usage life on it. And so that seems kind of short to me. I think that is unnecessarily short, probably, and so you do need to use this up really fast, maybe. And then the newest product from Westman Atelier that just was released are their powder blush duos and their sculpting powder duos. And so the sculpting powder duos include a contour shade and a blush shade, and the contour shades are sort of the same shades as their contour sticks. And so the lightest shade is Biscuit, and that one is decidedly gray. And so you're going to definitely want to use that just as a contour. And then the second one has Truffle as the contour shade. And I know that that Truffle shade is a little bit more on the reddish side. And in general, at one time I did see a video with the Westman Atelier folks, and they were suggesting that even people that have skin tones like mine or like Gucci Westmans could use that one as a bronzer. And I do think that that has worked pretty well for me as a bronzer, so that is a positive thing. So I think that it could be that if you have light skin, that you might be able to try out that sculpting powder duo with the Truffle version, the medium version, and you might be able to use that as a bronzer, but I would suggest that you might want to give it a try in the store to see how well it works for you before you spring for it. And then there also are 3 versions of the powder blush duo, and I think that the lightest one definitely looks like I can use it. The medium one, I think that that would be pretty saturated if I were to use it. And then the darkest one, I think that that would probably not be a good idea for me to try to use that product based on what I've seen. So of all these products, I'm really not that interested in sculpting my face, and I don't know that I even want a blush that is as dark as the one that's in the medium shade in the blush line. And so I did just pick up one of these, and so that is the one that has the Mimi shade in it, which is sort of a bronzy, blushy type of a shade. And then that also has Coquette, which is a peachy shade. And I think that this should work really well for me, because I think that the Mimi shade and the Coquette shade, that those have both been really terrific for me in terms of their cream blush sticks. and I am hearing that the powder formula is nice, and so I am looking forward to getting that one. But I probably won't get any more of them because I'm not sure that they're making other shades that I think would be really appropriate for me. And then for one of my favorite brands, which is YSL, the newest product that they have released is a line of loose setting powders. And so these come in a variety of different shades. And I did pick up one of these. Now, the one that I picked up does not seem to actually be available at Sephora. I picked up one that is in kind of a blue color, and that I thought this would be kind of brightening on my face. And I actually do like this color on my face. And I do think it's worked out well, but in terms of the powder formula, I do think that it has been quite nice. And so there was something on the YSL website that suggested that they were thinking that the loose powder was going to be more appropriate for people that have more oily skin, and that their pressed powder might be more appropriate for people that have dry skin. But for me, I would not purchase that pressed powder because it does have a fragrance in it, and this loose powder does not have any fragrance in it. So I thought I would go ahead and give it a try. And I feel like even though it is winter, and even though my skin is still pretty dry, and even on occasions when I'm not wearing any kind of a foundation that has any oil in it, I feel like this powder has still been fine for me. So I wouldn't take that concept that this is supposed to only be for oily skin. I wouldn't take that too seriously. I think it's been very nice for me, and I do think that it's been very finely milled and that it's been working pretty well for me. Now, I haven't had a chance to try this powder with a lot of different foundations, and also under a lot of weather conditions. And so for me to say that I really love a powder, it usually takes me using it in a lot of different conditions before I feel that confident about it. But I would say that so far, so good with this powder. I do really like it. But I do think that this blue shade is very nice. And then there's also a pink shade. So you might not be wanting to purchase these powders from the Sephora website if you're interested in the pink shade or the blue shade, because they only have their regular translucent or tinted powders on the Sephora site. And then another product that YSL released maybe a month or so ago is their powder blush. So this is called Make Me Blush. And it was available, I think, worldwide in like 13 different shades, a whole lot of different shades, but only some of them were available in the US. And the original shades that they brought out in the US, none of the lighter shades were available. And so people like me that are trying to go for a more muted blush look had a hard time thinking that these might be really appropriate for them. I did pick up a shade that does have a little bit of a shimmer in it, and that one is called Nude Lavalier. And I did really, really like that one. And so I can recommend that shade. But what then happened for me is that I went to Sephora and I tried the other shades out in the store, and I do feel like I don't really like the matte shades as much as I like that shimmery Nude Lavalier shade, and I felt like it was a little bit more difficult to go on my skin, and so I became a little bit less enthusiastic about that. And then they released the shade that I thought that I might actually really like, which is called Rose Haze. And so I was thinking about picking that one up, but it sold out almost immediately on Sephora during the sale. And so I think that what I need to do is to actually go to a Sephora when it does come into stock and to try that one on and to see if I actually like it and if it does work for me in that shade. I think that there was a time, maybe a year ago or so, that I would have just snapped all this stuff up, but I'm trying to be a little bit more cautious in terms of buying products that I'm really going to use now. And I think that this is one of those products that I'm still uncertain about, and that I don't really want to spend that much money on something if I'm not going to be really excited about it. So I haven't bought that one yet, but I am still interested in it. And so if you have happened to have purchased one of the matte shades, or in particular this Rose Haze shade, then please let me know about it, because I am still interested in it. And then other products that are available from Sephora that I have really liked. I do really, really like the YSL eyeshadow quads. I still feel very enthusiastic about those. I think that in terms of blendability, that those are really at the top of the heap, and that I can really easily make an eye look that looks really nice on me. And I actually like those so much that I actually have all of those. And so I have done a video where I did demonstrate all of those, and so you can take a look at that video if you're interested in the particular shades. But there are a number of different shades available at Sephora, and I have really enjoyed actually using all of those different shades. And I also really like the bronzer that is from YSL, and there's a couple of different colors that work really well on my skin. They both have kind of a peachy look to them, and so they have worked well with my skin tone. And it is a matte bronzer, and so that is kind of what I prefer, to get a look as if I have just a natural tan. And then I also picked up one of their eyeliners, and I have this one in a bronzy type of a shade, and this has performed really well for me too. I think that this has performed for me as well as any other eyeliner that is in my collection. I would be a little bit tempted to pick up another one of these, but I do feel like I have enough eyeliners that I don't really need to actually buy any extras. But in terms of the formula for this, I do really like it. I think it stays in place very well. It hasn't been irritating, and I think it's smudged out nicely, and this particular color has been nice. So thank you very much for watching all the way to the end of the video. And again, if there are any products that are especially interesting to you and that you would especially like to have me talk about on this channel, then please let me know what those are so I can think about picking those up. And in addition, if you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, then I hope you will go ahead and do that. And if you like this video, then I hope you will hit like, because that helps the algorithm. And in general, Coco and I do love you very much, and I hope that you are having a good spring. So thanks very much. Goodbye.
La ba da la la la, boom,